your whole life can be a strategy that you create for yourself. People are looking for the keys everywhere, and I'm telling you, like the keys to this and the keys to that. I'm telling you, my friends, you have a master key that opens every single door. And if you just access that, all the things, I know that it can sound really chunked up, though.
Hello, and welcome to Habit Nerd, a podcast show that knows that few things can have a more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily systems, habits, and mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Bree Hearn, a multi-passionate researcher, lecturer, speaker, and coach. Once a perfectionist who was always busy but not necessarily effective, I overcame illness and burnout and am now obsessed with sharing the science and systems for working with efficiency and habits for abundant health in your mind and your body. Each week, my guests and I share stories and lessons backed by research. So let's buckle up and dive straight into today's empowering conversation. Hi Habit Nerds, welcome back to this week's episode. I am delighted and thrilled and honoured to be joined today by Nadine Muller. Now, Nadine is a life and business mentor and a best-selling author. Her new book, just in time for this episode, is called A Reason to Rise, and it's out now. Nadine leads others to their personal and professional greatness, to a new model of their world to rise from their past rubbles, to collapse time, and rapidly to show them not merely that first step, but the whole staircase from there. Nadine helps her clients to increase their earning potential and wealth whilst doing so. She's a warm and inspirational leader who wants us to claim our greatness for ourselves and for our families. Nadine reminds us that we have choices. We're not stuck. We can change. We can start again. We can always redirect. We can prioritize ourselves as wives, and as a wife and mum to two gorgeous boys, Nadine believes that she can have it all, so can we. So Nadine, welcome and thank you for joining me today on the Habit Nerd podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Brie. What a beautiful introduction, which I received with so much gratitude. And for those of you listening, thank you so much for being here. I feel we're going to have a really beautiful conversation. Just before we jumped on, as you can tell, my voice is a little bit raspy. I've just come off a beautiful men's retreat where I get to guide a lot of men to their own growth and healing and transformation. And hence why the voice is a little bit sore this morning, because I get to beautifully lead them in ways that requires me to dance in both like a dark feminine energy and light feminine energy. And so the voice has been a lot of primal, beautiful screaming. So thank you for listening in and hearing this voice.
And as I said to Nadine before we started recording, it's come as you are in this podcast. And, if your voice is husky because you've been doing, such great work over the weekend. And I did say to Nadine, I was able to catch some of the videos on social media and wow, very important, very impactful work. So so thank you for being here, husky voice and all. And we can more than hear you. So no problem there. So Nadine, I start all of my interviews with a similar question. Given that this is the Habit Nerd podcast, I like to ask guests, what is a habit that serves you, that helps you show up as the person that you want to be?
Yeah. What a beautiful question. And I'm sure you've had this answered in so many different ways, and perhaps in also ways where, is really similar to, as someone that has evolved and created so many versions of myself and has had to let go of past versions of myself where habits and behaviors and values-based living has been at the forefront, now more than ever, my habits have transformed hugely. It's no longer, people talk about the morning routine and the golden hour and the make the bed and the real like bang, bang, 1, 2, 3 step. More than ever, I have learnt to get out of my mind and drop into my heart. So, and into my intuition. So I have remembered so many habits that are well before this lifetime that I've brought back through now. And yes, those habits that are formed through logical thinking of, get up, get ready, prime yourself, do the thing, they're still there, but that's just an embodiment of it. Now that's autonomous. That doesn't need to be thought of. That just happens, like brushing your teeth or going to the toilet. Your body just knows. That's just there as a requirement, as something that we just do or be, I should say. Now those habits are more that moment. I call them the three S's. It is a practice of absolute stillness, of absolute like silence. I call it solitude. So soul with an SOUL. I call it that stillness and spaciousness. Now, as you can imagine, and these are practices within self, and how I, and even how I'm sharing this with you, no one way will be perfect for one another, yeah, as in for someone else. So it's finding that practice within yourself and how that looks like. And for me, it's a lot of breath. Yes, it's a lot of absolute quietness, and it's going to places and spaces that allow me to sit in the anchoring of my day and what that gets to look like. Obviously, we lead men, we lead women, we lead business owners. We've got a lot of energetic capacity. And in order to do that at the capacity that I do, I have to actually bring a lot of that energy back to myself in order to expand that for others. So habitually, stillness, spaciousness, absolute solitude is required for me to operate in any capacity. And whether that's as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And it's something that I would love to bring into this conversation and perhaps invite people who are listening. Where are you creating space for yourself? And not just for yourself. It might be a space where that means you can operate fully in all of your hats or in all of your masks or whatever you want to call them. And that looks different for each person. Again, as I said, some people are out there grounding. That's perfect. Some people are doing a quick breath. I want to say that my habit isn't something where it's just in the morning. It's over a 24-hour period. Does that make sense? It
Does.
allows me to go, wow, what do I need in this moment? What do I desire in this moment in order for me to facilitate what I need to do?
Mhm.
So again, really inviting everybody right now, when was the last time you had space? And I'm talking about physical space around you, as well as like ethereal in the ether space. Then when did you have last soul time, so solitude by yourself, to really introspect and look out and zoom out from where you are now, where you're going. And that will provide not just the behavior to do what you need to do, also the clarity to go where you're going. And I think we'll beautifully, perhaps it'll be weaved for this conversation as we go.
Yeah, thanks, Nadine. That is, and as you predicted, I do hear lots and lots of different habits. That's the first time I've heard anything like the three S's, in fact. Like we go kind of very surface level, and we might say mindfulness or meditation, for
Yeah.
example, but you've really dropped into that in more of a deeper level,
Yeah.
just so that our listeners have something to anchor that onto. You do work with, huge numbers of really high performing,
Yeah.
successful business owners. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, energy, time throughout their day. What are some of the ways that you might help
Yeah.
your clients and the people that you're leading drop into that solitude or
Yeah.
the spaciousness in a
Yeah.
busy day?
Yeah. So if we were to just even, look back over the tapestry of someone's life, and this is where, a lot of business owners come to me, to the focus is actually to build their business and scale their companies and their entrepreneurship journeys, and allow them to move in new ways and directions for their family and themselves and whatever they hear their purpose to do. It's so interesting because sometimes I very rarely look at their business, and I'm actually looking at them as individuals, and we go fairly deep. So we do a lot of healing and growth and development work, which works on the person's mastery, though it actually goes back to, their spiritual self, their past version of self, their upbringing and their root causes as to why they move in certain ways. So particularly, and I'll speak in context to, let's just say, women. We grow up stereotypically, and now more than ever, we're in a world that a lot of people pleasing tendencies, perfectionism tendencies that can lead to other things like procrastination, looping, not trusting ourselves, and moving in ways that ultimately means we're shooting ourselves to death. And we spoke, you earlier spoke about my book, and this is a huge area of that. So, so, a lot of women and business owners that come to me are like, you know what, I'm operating from the should, and I'm operating out of force, or I'm operating out of my masculine, and I know how to do that. So they're logically have their systems in place, though the illogical growth happens when we're no longer sitting in the mind anymore. But going back to your question, it's like, can we actually make sense of and understand why we move in the ways that we do? And quite often, their nervous systems, if we're going to talk about women that are in absolute like achievement status or moving in ways that their perfectionism drives them and or also hinders them, and also their people pleasing tendencies, which is just a beautiful thing to have. Though at the same time, let's not make it wrong though, can we also see how that can derail us and put us off course? So I go back to their youth, their young, between the ages of 0 to 7, and I actually do a lot of past life work with them and generational blood lineage work with them. Now, it seems really like, again, this is for the people that are ready for it, right? The people that are ready to face the woman in the mirror for it. The woman, and speaking in context of the woman for today, the woman who is ready to remove the mask that is the reason why she's moving in the habits that she is today. And it's really exciting. And I hope that this gets to be a really different conversation that you've had, Brie, with perhaps anybody else that you've had. Because I'm telling you, when we heal, grow, transform, make sense, allow the past version of us to come through, and I'm not just talking generational traumas, I'm talking about even the wisdoms from our past self, the wisdoms from our past lineage, our bloodlines, and we bring through those. For example, I've got Filipino heritage, I've got Scottish heritage, I've got Irish heritage. And if I was to speak to my Philippine heritage, there's a lot of resilience, there's a lot of tenacity, there's a lot of in the face of courage. You know, you can either walk back and go, this is too scary, this is too fearful, I'm just going to stay here. Or, for the Philippine culture, it's like, well, no, we have to. This is a matter of survival. So you can see how for me, and talking about habits and talking about busy, successful women, for me, it was like I operated from a place of survival and operated from a place of I have to, because if I don't, there's collateral damage. And the reason I want to bring this first before talking about women in business and what they can do is making sense of why we operate the ways that we operate now. And so, yes, business owners, I get them to sit in, like I get them to have a look at their strategy and where things are moving and what they're actually doing. Though I actually get them to really introspect on their behaviors and patterns and why they're doing them in the first place, how they're doing that in the first place. And again, I don't want the business owner just to have a business that goes amazing. I want her nervous system to feel safe. I want her younger version of self to go, these habits fulfill me. These habits make me like, there's intrinsic motivation. Like, I don't need to be motivated. I don't need, even beyond disciplined. Like, let's even go further than that. Yes, because you can have habits that make you really disciplined because you're autonomously doing them. Though I'm going deeper and going, the type of habits that you no longer call them a habit because that's just who you're being and that's what you do and it's intrinsic. It's so embodied that you don't need to think about it anymore. Now, again, for a business owner, things like breath work is going to support them, though I'm talking not the breath work that's just like 1, 2, 3, couple of deep breaths, golden tens, and complete. Yes, they're going to be a beautiful reset. Though I'm talking the breath works that actually allow huge somatic releases, right? That may reset someone or a woman or a business owner to actually go, whoa, that just reminded me of, something that happened before that I now get to release in order for me to step forward and then put in practice into my business. Okay. And again, I'm very cognizant of the fact that for some people, you may be listening to this going, far out, this is a whole new access of things that I didn't know, though I'm here bringing a new paradigm of the way that we get to do business. And this isn't, people are like, oh, is this something, out of this world or new? It's like, no, we're actually bringing through practices that have been forgotten, right? That we can bring through and actually create within the modern day times of being a woman and creating businesses that actually allow us to be in flow. And I know there's a lot of things coming up for you, Brie, right now. What question do you have of me?
There's a lot, there's so much. So, my original question at the start was, in what ways throughout a day might somebody do that? And you were very right to re-steer me to not the functional, do box breathing or whatever it is, but really, I understand now the need for silence and stillness, because only in the silence and stillness is where the questions and the uncomfortable answers can bubble up and come to the fore. So I suppose where I'm going with that is, it's never going to be a one size fits all, but just the habit of sourcing that silence, that stillness, that gift to yourself to question, why is it that I behave in that way?
Yes.
And really inviting the bravery
Yes.
to understand that it could be beyond the kind of 3D understanding that we have in the life that we remember, and understand that there's fear in that, but that there's also huge opportunity, that, there's untapped stuff here that,
Yes.
is about repatterning things from generations ago or whatever. So I hope the listeners of this episode take this from where they are. And I understand that at the start of the conversation, you said, this is people hear when they need to hear, and they, it's not for everybody, and they come to it when they're ready with what they're ready to handle.
Yeah.
But I suppose it would be important, and certainly this is how I'm connecting with it. You can't do that work without the silence as a first step.
Yes. And Brie, and I love that you've said this. I just invite the listeners right now to really tap in, like just go inwards for a bit. The world is trying to rush you. It is trying to distract you. You are trying to distract you as well at the same time, whether we know it or not. And here's the thing. When people drop out of their mind, I get asked all that, well, not so much anymore though. I remember earlier on in my coaching days, it was like mindset tips. And I loved mindset tips. I loved mindset hacks. I loved all those things. I was recently on a speaking gig where it was like, hey, what would you say to anyone who wants to really shift their mindset? And I'm like, quieten your mind, to actually allow your mind to have a rest. Because especially as a woman, the decisions and the ways that you can operate when you're no longer operating from your mind and you start operating from another space, and that's utilizing your intuition, utilizing the gift of your womb, utilizing the space that, we're out here creating human life from this space. So let me tell you, especially for the business women and the entrepreneurs, or those that you may not be in business. My past version of me, I was an emergency registered nurse in the military for, a decade and a half. I've got an interesting life tapestry before I was doing this. And so it's really important to mention that I come from a place where I was living in my mind and I was operating from my mind. I was making decisions from my mind and everything was in my mind. And that's perfect. Though you get to the point where you realize your mind is actually, a really great and also not so great place to make decisions from. Because also, what does the mind do? It loops. It thinks about the what ifs. It goes, no, that's too scary. Don't do that. It's got a birdie on the shoulder that goes, oh, but what if this? And then what about my kids? And it's thinking from a very
Protects.
conscious state. Yep. And that's what it's designed to do. So we have to have reverence for that's what the beautiful mind is here to do. So we go, great, thank you. Thank you for that. And also I want to hear the voice that tells me that it's safe to do so. Now I'm very, very conscious and a past version of me that was so very much in my masculine that I had to have the answers and I had to have the outcome and I had to create so much planning for me to make a move, and it had to be so sure. And why was that? Because I didn't trust anything else other than me knowing what the outcomes were. And so for those listening right now, I just invite you to go, what would happen if I actually trusted something outside of my mind? And that something is you, that something is internal belief. Again, we could go down other avenues, though we're going to keep it really simple for now. What if there's a whole world inside of you that could create an external part of you, a life, a vision, an intention, an ikigai, so your purpose or your business, whatever it is, and that you start operating and moving with that in your play as well, not just from your mind. You still make beautiful executed decisions, even very calculated risks. So I'm not saying at all you just run free and you operate from this like, just give it a go. Absolutely not. Though you get to actually have something else much bigger than you that is part of you start to shape the decisions that you make. And you get to call upon your incredible feminine self and your incredible spirit self and your beautiful tapped in self that allows you to form habits and form behaviors and ways of being that can actually support you in ways that you never thought before. Now, again, that takes courage. That takes huge bravery. That takes undoing a societal paradigm that says it's got to be this way. And I know, and I get it, because I obviously work with a lot of women day in, day out. They come onto our retreats and they're like, and if you were to look at their measure of success or look at their success of life, absolutely. Though they're like, Nadine, I can't keep going like this. I can't keep going and going and going like this. My habits are stacked. I can't create any more time. I am at energetic capacity. And I want you to know, if you're listening to this, I am leading some really big directors, founders, CEOs. Like, I am leading some big women in entrepreneurship. I've even and some women that are in startup business, some women that are in the flow of like, hey, I do this as a job, though I'm building this as my business. So it is such a beautiful dynamic of women. Though it's so interesting that right now more than ever, I know that people are more curious about how we can get out of the current rat race, and how there's a lot of people right now more than ever starting to tap into things, and ways of being internally that are creating illogical growth. And that's the contemplation that I wish for you to listen into today and start going, am I open to hear it? Am I open to feel it? Am I open to become it? Am I open to start the journey? And so really, just again, if you've got things in the past that you've pushed down, if you've got things in the past that you've gone, I'll deal with that later. If there's a lot of repressed things that you're like, oh yeah, there's something there. I think there's something that will do. I'll just, this way of being has led me down a beautiful life so far. That's perfect. Though you cannot circumnavigate self. You cannot create what you're here to really create. You cannot call in the life that you're really here to do if you continue to reject or put aside the person living it.
Wow. So that's, and I suppose that's the gift of intuition, that, if we are talking to a feminine energy here and a women in the audience, that's what the masculine doesn't give you. So, we can have all of the tools and the strategies, and we can have a blueprint for business or for time management or for success, however you're conceptualizing that. But the gift of intuition is the bravery to tap into that tiny little knowing, that tiny little voice that we know. Yeah, that's and the whisper, that's exactly right. And so I'm connecting with this work in a few years ago. I was writing my PhD, and the time when I could solve problems was when I went for a walk without my phone, by myself. It was started in the first few months as a brain break, but actually then I started to realize the downloads that I was having when I got back, to be able to connect different ideas, to be able to see things differently, to be able to, when something felt completely helpless and I just was ready to throw in the towel with, an aspect, I was finally able to see, oh, that's what that's about, or that's how that connects, or that's where I'm taking that. And it was that's a very specific example, but I feel like all of us would have those little examples of where the solitude, the space, the silence made something bubble up that otherwise we would not have received. Hi Habit Nerd listeners, have I got a treat for you? The brand new Gen AI productivity system has been created by well-known behavioral science consultancy Inventium. And get ready, because this course will change the way you work. No more endless to-do lists and time-wasting tasks. This course shows you how to leverage the power of generative AI to become more productive and to get things done better than ever before. It covers so much, including prompting hacks, Gen AI for writing and creativity, Gen AI for meetings and analysing data, just to name a few. I've done the self-paced course, learned a huge amount, and I know that I will save myself hours and hours in the week now. Habit Nerds, this is a game changer for working smarter in ways you didn't even think were possible. To get started now, you will find a unique link in the show notes of this episode. And in even better news, there is a 10% discount code for Habit Nerd listeners with the code BRE10. Generative AI is the future of work and of working with way more efficiency. Can you afford to be left behind?
I invite anyone listening to even go, where have you got evidence where that worked? So, for example, a lot of our women, for me, I've got a few incredible clients where some of their best moves in business was after, well, for a lot of them, a retreat with us, and then an idea literally dropped in, and then they executed that idea because they saw into a beautiful potentiality of what could be. They felt it, they anchored into it and went, that's my next move. So a lot of people will also come to me and go, hey, I have got all the things. I've invested, or I have got, some of them have got like iconic, business moves and strategies, and they've invested and put people into their corner that they've got all the strategy. Though how many people have got all the things and yet there's a void? How many people have got, where we're running our couples retreat this weekend, there are some couples that have got the white picket fence. They've got the incredible 9-figure, 8-figure, 7-figure business. They've got the incredible kids that are doing amazing. They've got the household that's got all the things, though they're like, we're just not fulfilled. And I'm telling, I'm speaking from a place of just, well, 1, experience, 2, my own life, 3, now having to see this in so many people. All the shiny will fill the void for a period of time until you do the thing that you know you must. And you will achieve and you will get there. And I talk about getting and operating from a place of the end in mind. And I invite you to wonder, if all was said and done and you were at the end of your life and you went, okay, if I was to look and truly look at my entire life tapestry, what were the golden threads? Was it the business that, was amazing? What was it? And most of the time, the mind won't be the reason why. It'll be the things that you operated from your intuition. It will be the things where you operated from an open heart. It'll be the things, and it's not even things. I'm even going to reject the thing that I just said. Thing. It won't be the thing. It'll be the feeling. It'll be the people. It'll be the legacy. It'll be the time when you used your voice. It'll be the thing that you went, you know what? I got to the end of my life. I lived it to its fullest breath. Time was on my side because I chose it. I didn't spend it working. I spend it living. Do you know what I mean? Think about right now, are you someone, for those listening, that the rhetoric out of your mouth is, I'm just so busy. Like even flip that. Is your habit already wired, or are your daily habits and the way you're operating wired where it's just feeding the busy? Like, because when I say busy, my mind and then my body and then my soul space goes, my busy is like busy, beautifully creating, busy spending time with my babies, busy, like I've got boys. So it's like playing armies or dress ups or all the things that we do, busy connecting with my husband, so busy living. Now, that for some people is like, I just can't, and I get it. Like, I can't get out of that because I've got so many things to do. That's the challenge. I'm going to remind you that this is where you go, I can't keep spinning the wheels like this. What if there's another way? And I'm here leading so many people, men and women and couples, particularly like power couples as well, where they're like, holy shit, we can't go with the hamster wheel anymore. There has to be another way. Start looking at people that are starting to realize, or that are doing the things that you're, or operating from the ways that you're like, how is it that they have that much capacity? How is it that their businesses or, ways of being or their purpose or their entrepreneurship is scaling and yet they're doing less? Now, hear what I just said. It's not that we're not doing the strategy. It's not that we're not doing the things that, you still got to run the business. You still got to do your admin. You still got to do your logistics. You still got to show up on socials. Though there's an energy behind this. There's a capacity that is grown. There is a willingness to be in stillness, to create the capacity to do what you need to do, so that when those to-do lists is coming, you've already been in your B list. You don't need to operate from a place of doing all the time. And when you actually allow that list to rest and allow your body to rest, you watch how much faster that to-do list will be done, how much you'll actually not stack that to-do list with the things that has to be done. And you'll actually just go, what needs to be done now? What is a later thing? What can I do internally that can shift energetically? I obviously lead a lot of coaches and mentors and people that have service-based businesses, and their hustle of bringing in clients, when I teach them how to actually call in clients, how to magnetize clients, how to actually become the embodiment of who you call in, it makes it makes clientele a very easy, beautiful, effortless. No, I'm not saying it doesn't take effort, though an effortless way of beautifully serving the people that are meant for you or for you to lead. Like, just there's a few things in that were really just, and again, if that was a lot for you, I invite you even to, like, and do this with any podcast, press pause, go back to anything and re-listen to it, because you might hear it in a different way. And what I really want is for people's minds to go, "Oh, what was that?" Because sometimes it's not necessarily what was said, it's what was brought up in you as it was spoken.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. I
love
think,
like, yeah, go.
sorry, I just that's exactly what it was for me. It was an experience. Your words were one thing, but it was paying attention to what my body was doing while I was listening. And for me, it was a feeling, a little knowing that some bravery is required here. That it's understanding that, because I'm really connecting with everything that you're saying. A huge paradigm, that I try and operate from is, to do less, to be more, to the understand what is important versus what is urgent, what is my important versus someone else's urgent. These sorts of conversations. I'm constantly inviting myself to be challenged with. But I think for me, the word is bravery, because it's the knowing, but then it's the doing with what that knowing is. And for me, maybe, and for some of our listeners too, it will be practicing that in small ways before making bigger leaps. And that's a safe space, that feels safe for me to operate in.
Yes, and that's what I meant before. I always talk about evidence. Can you already see how your whole life you've actually been given evidence of it? I really, and even out of the context of work or business, when have you just felt something and gone, and for a lot of people, they didn't listen to it, and then the outcome that they didn't want eventuated, and they were like,
Mm.
I felt something, I didn't listen,
And I ignored
and
it.
something happened, and the thing that I didn't want happened, even though I got a nudge or a whisper.
Mm.
I didn't listen to myself in that moment. And then I invite you to flip that and go, where did I listen? And it created the evidence where it did work. You said yes to an opportunity, or conversely, because I'm big about the no's, conversely, you said no. Or conversely, you've been doing this thing forever and you've always gone left. And then one day you went, I'm going to go right. And how did that turn out for you? I've got a thing where I say, when the world zigs, Nadine Muller zags. And the reason being is because I could always go back to zigging. Those zagging
Yeah,
has
that's tried and
always,
tested. Yeah.
yeah, those zagging has always given me opportunities of learning, opportunities
Mm.
of creating a new pathway, opportunities of going, holy shit. Like, it's always, you can choose if you want to see things as failure. I'm always like, it's feedback always. I've
Mm.
made so many moves in the time that people were thinking about moving. I just made them, fucked up
Mm.
many a times. And
Mm.
though I don't see it as those, I see it as always a learning, as always an invitation. Just notice even some words that both myself and Brie are saying, invitation, dropping in, downloads. You haven't heard me say force,
Mm.
push,
Hustle.
come from a place
Mm.
of hustle. Now,
Mm.
hear me when I say this, because again, there's a beautiful thing that I talk about when it comes to hustle. Like, the world is making hustle, we've really turned hustle into this, like, ugh, hustle. What if your hustle became you? Like, as in, you so beautifully hustled in the ways that instead of your hustling in life, you hustled in you. Like, what would happen if you went, I'm going to be that obsessed with turning inwards? I'm going to hustle at being someone that gets better at meditation. Like, again, the past version of me couldn't sit in silence for more than 2 freaking seconds, Brie. Like, I know we're only just meeting now, though trust me when I say a past version of me, obviously I was in the military for a long time. I was an emergency registered nurse for a long time. So you can imagine I had a very masculine way of thinking. Do
Yes.
or people die. Do
Yes.
the thing,
Emergency, urgent. Yes.
urgent, trauma, freaking just
Mm.
go. There is no waiting.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, though. In order to truly operate from that space, and especially if you're someone that it is that you desire to be a high performer, and I'm telling you, every woman listening to this, you may not be there yet, though you have the ability, the potentiality, the absolute part of you that you can be, whatever that looks like for you. Okay, because everyone is really different. But when a woman,
Yeah.
I've seen so many versions of it, Brie, so I can't unsee it and I can't unfeel it, because I have seen women
Mm.
step into my space believing that there's someone that they absolutely are in that moment, and becoming someone that they never freaking realized that they could be. And their whole life has been giving them clues. And it was just that moment of bravery, as you said, that ability to sit in the courage of, am I willing to feel the part of me or remember the part of me that might absolutely shake my entire world in the best possible way. And again, I know you're raising, beautiful little girls. I'm raising, the future generation of men. And it's really important for me. And I also see that as of course, I birthed men. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Like, I
Yeah.
always think, of course,
Why wouldn't I? Yes.
created that. I've been in male, even my lineage. When I think of that, though, I just go, the part of me that allows my men, or my little men, my little boys, to see femininity and to see also the masculine in both ways. And so, you know, just, we're not saying that the hustle is, and again, I'm speaking for me though, I'd love your insight, Brie. Like, we're not saying that the hustle is wrong though. Can we start to identify where the hustle can beautifully work for you, and that we get to actually do these beautiful, like, so for example, when I released the book, I went into a beautiful hustle mode, though it was like a separation season mode of, it was over Christmas, it was over New Year, and a lot of people were taking the time off. I chose that time was me going, this is my life's work. This is my legacy in a book. This is my, like, I didn't have to like hustle because the world told me to hustle. I am so intrinsically connected with myself and my message and my purpose and my mission and what I'm here to do and what happens in others when I do what I do. So it's not a hustle, it's passion. And I wonder if when you step into that, it's no longer hustle that's moving you. Does that sit with you, Brie? Like, when
It
it comes to,
does. It's actually a really lovely um prompt for me because my background is in language and literacy, and so words are really important. Hustle, and I need to take ownership for this. I was putting hustle in the conversation that we just had in that negative, anti-feminine,
yeah,
almost unsustainable basket.
yeah,
And the reason that doesn't sit so comfortably with me is because, in the same example as you just used with your book production over, the time that you chose to do it when it appeared to the world that that should be the time when you're slowing down, your hustle birthed something that you are so proud of and that is really important work in the world. And I have, speaking about evidence and speaking about the data, I have multiple examples, as I know everybody would, of times when hustle has been a real benefit to me. And what's come out of the hustle, because it was the hustle that I chose, has been something that's moved the needle massively, or something to be really proud of. So I'm grateful
absolutely.
for I'm grateful for even the reflection on the word hustle, and how, that if it is lighting you up, then let's not use busy, but let's use highly engaged, because that's where, yes, you're tired, but it's a good tired. It's a put my head on the pillow, proud of what I achieved today, excited about where this is going in the world, and what impact I'm going to be able to have. So that's a
I
really
love
important
that. Yeah,
reflection. And it's funny because I said hustle, you didn't say hustle, you were using other words, and I put hustle in as a negative. And then that obviously needed to be said because I am now
yeah,
rethinking that. And it's funny because I speak to all of these people and I read all of this stuff around slow down, just be, things will get done. And it doesn't sit well with me because for me, part of my way of working is hard work really lights me up. Work that's important really does light me up, and I really strongly identify with that. So when someone says stop working hard, I want to say, but I like working hard on the right things, So that's a very important reframe that you've helped
Oh,
me achieve.
yeah, and being big on, linguistics and how our words, we've got to be careful what we say, even just externally and then internally, our internal dialogue, right? And knowing that even how much is it the rhetoric that work is hard? Like to me,
Mm,
my work, I've even on the weekend, people are like, hey, thank you. I know that this was a really big, weekend for you guys. Obviously we have facilitators that lead alongside myself and my husband when we do the beautiful work that we do on our retreats. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and some people could see it as hard. Though I'm like anything, and then this is, my what the book is about, it's called A Reason to Rise. And all through that is like there are hardships that form you. There are the crunchy things that create the version of you that realize that part of you that is, and can overcome, whatever it is. We have to remember that what is the hard? Like if we were to say hard, like is work hard, or is it we get to actually put in the elements of hard. If it was easy, would it be worth doing? Like there's so many things when we start to speak into the language of of our life's work or of our purpose or even of our job or of our career. Like mother, let's talk about the rhetoric of how motherhood, a lot of people say mothering is so hard. I'm like, yeah, absolutely it is. Though let us speak into how absolutely freaking incredible motherhood is and how
mm,
beautiful it is and how effortless it gets to be and how when we are fully present in the flow of motherhood, how just like what a privilege it is to be the mother. And it can be both easy and it can be hard, and that's the dichotomies of extremes that we get to experience, and that can happen in every single area of our life. Marriage is hard. We're about to have our couples retreat. Though marriage, when you've got tools and resources and ways of being, not doing, and when we connect with our both, you know our both our masculine and feminine self as the woman and the man, coupleship, unity, marriage changes. It is no longer hard. It's just a journey. Do you know what I mean? Again, if we were
yeah,
to, I know we're
yeah,
talking in context of life and careers and businesses and women, though, let's look at it from every area. And I really invite the listeners to do that. We're not just
mm,
talking for one area. We're talking, this is a way of life. This is a way of being. And sometimes
yeah,
today, maybe just be a single step of curiosity. Maybe it's a second step of, I'm going to create more evidence. I know we've spoken, I'm big on evidence, because why do I say evidence to women a lot? Is because now more than ever, women need, in order to trust and to trust themselves more and to operate blindly, a lot of women need to have some outcome first. So let's build evidence first. And then
mm,
soon you've built enough evidence and you've seen it. And I invite you, if you've built enough, write them down, look at it, see it, speak it out loud, so that it's more than just it and it's a deep knowing.
mm,
You've actually utilized your words, you've utilized your mind, you've utilized the intention of your words. Then you felt it somatically in your body. Then you've looked, because I'm big on it. And I come from the science, the data, that I love all of that. That was my careers for, nearly 2 decades. And now it's like, how can we integrate all of it?
mm.
How can we integrate the things that used to happen before, beautiful technology and all the things, even down to, ways of being, before humanity was like this, how they moved and operated then? Like, how can we take parts of that and go, oh,
Mm,
that's incredible. Oh,
mm,
that's amazing. Let's also look at data. Let's also look at science. Let's also look at the feedback that we have, right? And then let's drop in to what we know to be true, utilizing all that evidence.
yeah, and what are we left with? I think it's a really lovely conversation around also avoiding those kind of binaries, like the right and the wrong, and sitting in kind of one camp or the other. So, your example of the retreat, that you've just run, and people saying thank you, because I mean, they should say thank you, and I'm glad they do, because you're impacting their lives. But the thank you, my God, I can't believe you're giving up your weekend to do this. That's coming from a paradigm of we don't work on the weekend.
Yeah.
Whereas, the dichotomy of Monday to Friday is for work, Saturday and Sunday is not for work. The freedom when you do something that you really love work-wise on a Saturday night because that suits you to do, that can birth real freedom because I'm using my time to do something here that I'm choosing to do, and I'm upsetting the status quo a little bit. And doesn't that feel great? So that for me is evidence that, okay, so the work that I love to do, if I want to take a Friday afternoon off and, be at my kids' athletic sports or go to a school assembly or whatever and do that on the weekend, is not with resentment, because there's a choice there, because I'm moving beyond that kind of, this is the way things must be and have always been. And, that's fine for a certain cohort of people, but not
Yes.
for me. And
Yeah.
that's okay too.
And that's the power place that I always, I'm here to do, just provide a new way. And it's not a new way, it's just a remembering. I'm
Mm.
just getting people to remember that there are other ways to incorporate new ways of being. And when you know, a lot of business owners will be like, "Hey, I want to set new goals," and I'm sure you'd be similar in the way it's like, let's look at those behaviors of you rather than the goals. Like let's also, yes, let's have big goals. So let's have a look at your daily habits to create those goals. Yes, you can do the cue and the craving and the reward and the response and all the things. Absolutely. Like keep doing the things that are also serving you to stack the habit or create the new habit. And whether you choose to believe that it's 18 days or 265 days of the literature, or if you choose to say that it's 21 days when you can break a habit, I'm telling you, I have seen people decide, and that's the first step to any habit. If you want to create a new habit, the first thing, yes, cue it, make it obvious, make it attractive. Sure, I get it. And it's absolutely true. Though before all of that, strip that back for a moment. The first thing is, how done are you with the previous habit?
Yeah. It has to matter. That's the first
Yeah.
step there. So
Like,
yeah, I've just recorded an episode on exactly that. It has to have a strong why and it has to
right.
matter before we dip into. And just to endorse what you also have just said, the latest literature would say that how long does it take to form a new habit? The answer is it depends. There's actually no 21 days, 66 days, 124. It actually doesn't. It depends.
Yes, and it's person to person, just
Mm.
like we're all so unique. It's like our fingerprints. It depends. And
Hmm.
and and again, I've seen people decide on a day. I've seen people go around the loop of even smoke. We do a lot of work around habits and addictions, and you can imagine with men and women and then couples,
Hmm.
uh, some really big addictions, right? In so many different ways. They've gone to all the things, done all the things. And I have seen some people that are like, I have not been able to undo this habit for a very long time. And I have done everything to try to do this. And when we, again, context perhaps for a chat for another day though, when someone decides, and there is a big reason, and I love that you said that, there is a why that makes it so, well, here's the thing, the outcome and the collateral damage and whatever happens afterwards is no longer an option.
Yeah.
And so fast someone can decide, and then again, if you know what's really important is then what happens in the follow-up of that and how intentional that gets to be and lots of other things. That's a chat for another day, though. For right now, like, if that can move someone very quickly in a habit or a behavior or an addiction or a whatever else. And so, just again, I guess we've really opened up, and you've shared about it on former podcasts of yours. What if what you're reading you can choose to believe, if you will. Like, if you want to put on your vision board, in 12 months I will be there. Sure, well then in 12 months you'll be there. Though I'm telling you, what if it's 2 months? What if
Yeah.
it's a month? Like, I've seen, like, when we're logical, yeah, okay, it'll be 12 months because you said it's 12 months. How many people, so I'll just quickly share this as a former health professional. How many people, and I've done so many different areas of work with them. My specialty was emergency nursing, though, I did ICU. I've obviously done a lot of palliative. There's a lot of things, right? Both personally and professionally, actually, where a doctor or someone will say, hey, they've got 6 months to live, and people on 6 months can die on the 6 months. Then you have people, because someone said it, so they believed it. So mind, body, soul, spirit, there was a decision, right? and we can see where evidence where that has been true and evidence where that hasn't been true. And then you've got people that it's like, you shouldn't be here. What is that?
Yeah.
There is an internal why. There is a no way. How many people I've been alongside people on their final breath, both in my personal family and then professionally. And the body and the intuition and the spirit can wait until someone arrives.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
You know, and all hurt can be gone in that moment, and all a forgiveness might, like there's so many things that I've seen both in so many varying ways in what we do and then in formal lives and whatever else, that just makes me go, we have to question everything we see, we read, and we also believe, and let us be open to it all. And I hope this conversation has been that for every reader or every listener today. And then for those that are, our readers, my book will literally just go mind bend. And it's just an invitation, if you wish to hear something new or different, or may feel familiar, or that may make you go, actually, yeah, I'm going to start questioning. I'm going to actually start doubting my own doubts. Who told me that they were true? Do you know what I mean? I believe them at some point.
Yeah. Just because it's a thought you're thinking doesn't make it true. I'm really connecting with, you've started with my initial question around what is your habit, but the thread that is continuing throughout the whole conversation is the habit of questioning, the habit of doing the work that you're avoiding, the habit of
Yes,
dipping in, being brave, asking questions. I really do respect that you keep going back to people's need for the science, for the evidence, for the
yeah,
data, because we are, we definitely are humans. We have responsibilities, we have mouths to feed, we have mortgages to
100%.
pay. And so, it's really respectful to have that level of conversation. But I just really hope that listeners are, even if they're ready to just dip their toe into, if you put something on a metaphorical vision board or a physical vision board, or it's the, home screen of your phone, whatever it is, and your smart brain is saying that'd probably take 12 months,
Yeah,
that you could collapse time if all you did was seek the magic that's kind of simmering, and just what have you got to lose? So even if that's all this is, what have you got to lose if all it is I want that, and I can see that, 12 months, 24 months is kind of a realistic timeline. If there was another way to operate, if there was a slightly left of center paradigm that you could dip into with the hope of that collapsing that time, give it a go.
I love this, Brie. I'm knowing that, your podcast is around habits, and I intentionally and beautifully get to share in a way that perhaps, listeners so far on your beautiful podcast can just hear how this can be a way to form new ones or create new ones. And because we have all the information, uh, about habits. I love atomic habits. I'm big about that. Some of my incredible colleagues, that's their zone of genius about, building the business owner who then their stack on their morning routine and their, how they operate. And, even, one of my mentors is Dan Martell. He's all about buying back your time. And he's one of my business mentors. Then I have literally a spiritual mentor. Then I have, like, there's so many people that I engage in. So, and really, again, I want to echo what we said before. It's not the one thing, right? Though I'm really inviting you that the one thing that is within, and that tapping that you have access to, if you awaken that version of you, will move the needle quicker than any other thing. Like, I cannot, and until you experience it for yourself, like, absolutely have the strategy. Absolutely, absolutely engage in the requirements of what it needs in business and in life. And again, remembering that all of us, for many women, they are, like, I lead a lot of solo mums, and they're in career or they're in corporate or they're in business. If not them, if they make some big moves and it doesn't work out, there's collateral damage in their
Huge risk
children's
there.
outcomes.
Yeah. Mhm.
right? So I get that. Um, though the ones that can trust and go all in on that. Here's the thing. When you start tapping in, and you've said it before, when you start tapping in and just take those couple of steps, create the evidence, very soon you start to move a bit bigger with it. You start to then, and then you create the evidence where you're like, oh, that move worked. And then it just becomes this like you're no longer not trusting it,
Mhm.
right?
It
And then you
becomes a new evidence for
it
you.
becomes,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is where mastery comes into play. And I
Mm.
love mastery, and I love all of those keywords and buzzwords that a lot of people utilize because it's true. Then it
Mm.
becomes mastery, right?
Mm.
My logic mind says this. My
Mm.
intuition says this. And then those that have spirit and faith connect in with your God, within your creator. Then connect in with your higher self. Boom. Very quickly, I call this like your board of advisors. Okay. And then if you have coaches and if you have mentors, check in with them. Yo,
Mm.
hey, this is what I'm thinking.
Mm.
And actually, I'm going to get you to even change your language with that. Stop thinking. Hey, this is what I'm pondering. This is what
Mm.
I'm wondering.
This is what
Because
I'm
let us just
considering.
have a think about what thinking does. Thinking is like, who, with the information that I have. Wondering and having curiosity is like, oh, there's bigness to it, there's expansion to it.
Mm.
Create your team and your board of advisors, but make damn sure that your board of advisors also has you in it and also
Yeah.
has
Oh,
your
that's such
intuition
a
in it.
yeah. I was about to make that exact point. I just had a vision of kind of a physical board, like if you go into a job interview and there's a board of people, but I saw myself sitting at the table too.
Yes,
And I think that's the
goosebumps.
important part there. Yeah. So also and I'm a big fan of James Clear, of course, and Atomic Habits, but I did interview somebody who was really insightful, and they said when she read Atomic Habits as, a busy working mum, she got the sense that do all these steps, and if you can't form the habit, you're just a bit crap.
Mm,
And that was a really kind of a really dangerous message for her to take from that. And so I think, and I had this conversation with this person, and it's just reminded me of it now, that if everybody who smoked wanted to quit smoking, and it was as simple as a 4-part feedback loop,
yeah,
there would be no smokers in the world. So,
actually,
we can absolutely tap into the literature, and we should. And as someone who is, has a doctorate, we should.
absolutely.
But the person reading it, there's a reflexivity there that you cannot ignore. Nobody is neutral. So it's what you're doing with that book while that book's in your hand where the rubber will hit the road. And so yeah, you've said that in a different way, but just wanted to really bring that point back. If we're talking about a seminal text like Atomic Habits, and then somebody's read it and they just can't get
Yes.
themselves out of this pattern or break this quote unquote bad habit, and how dangerous that is for the self-talk when you
I
see on Instagram and millions of people connecting with this book and how it's changed their lives. So this is the important kind of caveat to put there,
yes.
I think.
And be like, just because I think it's 7 million, I'm not even where it would be now. It's like there's a lot of people. Are you willing? What I was saying before, are you willing to zig when everyone's zagging, or willing to
Mm.
zag when everyone's zigging? Like I like, what would happen if you do? And guess what? And when you create evidence of you doing and moving different or being different, you can always go back. Though watch what happens when you return to a place and learn something new. And again, you spoke that so beautifully. Despite what anything you read or consume or take on, you have a conscious and then an unconscious choice and bias and so many things. That's also a conversation for another time. Where if you do not agree with that, or there's parts of you that goes, hey, I like that, you can choose to reject parts of it and go, no, I'm not gonna, I'm actually no. Or no, that's someone's projection. Is that my belief or is that somebody else's? I know when I was doing huge money work, right? I come from a really, my background, my history, I was talking about Filipino history, scarce. It's poor, it's
Poverty, yeah.
broke, it's poverty,
Mm.
right? And so I had to undo some really big internal, at a cellular level, at
Mm.
like energetic level of money work, right? And
Mm.
wealth work. And again, for those listening, if you're new to it, money is merely a reflection of your worthiness of self. And if that triggers you, allow it to trigger you. You're welcome. That's what I'm here to do. And I hope that instead of trigger, you can actually choose the word activate and you do something with that information, because all that is feedback. So I had to do some really big internal somatic work about the worthiness around that. Now, here's the thing with money. If we're going to talk about the money, it's like there are so many ways to create money, and and systems and books about money. But it's like, can we also realize that what if there was the worthiness aspect of that? What if there was an energetic capacity for it? What if energetics of money is receiving? How are you in receiving? How do you receive a compliment? How do you receive as a partner or as a friend? When someone compliments you, you go, oh, no, 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 no. Do you know what I mean? Do you, when someone says, I want to, this is a random act of kindness, do you give random acts of kindness all the time? How are you when you receive it? Because money is a receivership, right? And then you get to beautifully, I'm big on generosity. I call it the boomerang effect of money. Boomerang it. People are printing freaking money, guys. There is endless buckets of money. And if you don't believe that, right, there's an internal readiness for you to go on the journey of worthiness. Like we've talked about so many things. And I just hope, no, I know I have an internal knowing that your audience, not knowing your audience just yet, though connecting with them here, that they will hear and be ready to hear the parts that they need to hear in this. And that's
No
what I
question.
hope this conversation has got to bring, because we have, and I said it before, we all have information coming out of our wazoo of habits. Coming out of our wazoo. What if our habits, and then therefore our behaviors, and then therefore our ways of being, and then therefore the ways that we operate in business, and then in our home environments, and then how we pass that on, and then what legacy could we create, and that can just keep on going, could be formed in other ways as well, stacking with other things that we get to bring into the equation.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I
What a
could speak to
conversation.
you. What a conversation. I could talk to you all day, Nadine. I think there's a quote that I'm reminded of, and I think it says something like, I really do hate to break this to you, but the magic you seek is in the work you're avoiding. And I think that you said that really well before, when I can't remember the way you phrased it, but it was something about the one bit you're missing that you're not doing is what's going to move you from everything else you've tried to the thing that you seek. So I think to come full circle in this conversation, it's let's step out of the 3D, let's step out of the what's written down, let's step out of what's in the manuals and in the books and the tried and tested that you've been taught and that you've read about. And self-development's a huge passion of mine, as I can see it is of yours. So this is honoring all of that work that has come before, but mapping that onto what's yours, what's in your patterning, in your history, and what you can bring to this work, and to be brave enough to, and in a smaller way as you feel ready to try. That's certainly what I hope our listeners arrive at as a result of this conversation. Now, Nadine, I said we'd be an hour. We're getting to that hour mark. I just want you to be able to connect with our audience in more ways so that they can gain more from your excellent work. I've already mentioned Rise Up, the book, and I'll be putting the notes for the link for the book in our show notes. But I want you to let our listeners know how they can connect with you, and also if there's any final messages that you would like to leave us with.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies, you can probably imagine and make sense that I'm someone that it will feel like you're talking, we're just having a conversation. Brie and I are just chatting, right? And we can, like, this is the power of storytelling. And that's what I'm here doing and using my voice in. And I've jumped on many a podcast, and all the time it'll always be, you've said something different that I didn't know that I know our listeners need to hear. And that's it. And again, that's not, we no doubt had all the questions, to prepare for this. At the same time, it went a whole new beautiful way. And that's what about, and that is real life, right? We can prepare all we want, though what is magical is the things that happen on the other side of preparation as well as preparation. I love preparing. I love having that's the masculine, have the framework, and then beautifully flow with your feminine inside. Okay. So I want to say this. First of all, please just reach on out to my Instagram. You'll see so much beautiful work there that will leave you with so much curiosity and questioning and wonderment of what's available for you within you. That's the first thing. Yes, please grab the book. You can find it anywhere and everywhere. It's literally, depending on whether you get it on Audible and audiobooks or, you go to your bookstores, it's everywhere. If you're traveling around Australia right now, it's at every major airport. It's everywhere. Okay. You'll see it everywhere. So please grab it, right? Of course, I've got also limited editions. If you want to reach out and grab it from me directly, please land on in after you've read this. Into my Instagram, I'll send you a link and you can grab a limited edition signed hardcover copy, and they're beautiful. It's just I had them across my book launch. They went a bit crazy, so we've ordered heaps and now it's a thing. So please, I would love for the readers and listeners to land on in, and I would love to send you that out, and I'll throw in something for all of the beautiful listeners actually into the book, and I'll send it out. The other thing I want to say is, you can listen to all of the podcasts beautifully, read even all the books. I really invite you, where are you reading and listening and taking all the information in? Where can you now apply what you know, or test what you know, or test what you don't know that you're willing to know? Because we only know what we know until we know something new. So if there's anything new in here, I invite you to just go, I'm curious about that. And if you want more of a chat about that, please land on in. And again, whether it's Instagram, whether it's on our website, again, I know you'll pop in the show notes, Brie. I say this, people are looking for the answers outside. Yeah. And there are many answers that we can find outside of us. The true answers and what we've spoken about, what we've come, full circle in tonight or today in this conversation is knowing that the greatest needle moving action strategy that you will ever have is you. So you're the strategy. Okay. Your whole life can be a strategy that you create for yourself. People are looking for the keys everywhere. And I'm telling you, like the keys to this and the keys to that, I'm telling you, my friends, you have a master key that opens every single door. And if you just access that, all the things, and I know that it can sound really chunked up, though all the things that you could possibly want will just open, and not just straight away, though. I'm telling you, I've seen some things for some of our clients where it's almost instantaneously. They will call in the man, or they will create the business, or they will, I've seen just so much magic happen when people stop resisting the magic, and when people start no longer avoiding the person living the life. And again, the final thing, so you've got the master key, my friends, and when you access that master key, that will open every single door. The last thing that I always want to say is, like, just have the bravery and the courage to do the things that you've never done, even if it scares you. And I always talk about, even with the shaking hands, even with the trembling voice, get around people that can go, hey, despite all of that, let's go anyway. There's all this rhetoric about being fearless. Guys, I have been shit scared doing most of the stuff that I have done till today.
Yeah.
Like, releasing a book was so scary, cathartic, healing, scary as fuck. Like my whole life work, my whole story, people that had never heard. There were parts of my story that no one heard. No one had ever heard, that I put into my book and let the world see it. That was so freaking scary. I had every fear come up in me. It's okay if you're fearful. You don't have to have the rhetoric of the woman to be fearless. Move with fear. Allow fear to be one of your friends. Put fear actually on that board that we were talking about. Though don't let it have this really loud voice. Don't let it sit in VIP. Put it at the back and go, hey, I hear you, I see you, and then I move despite of you. Right?
I
It's
love
okay
it.
if you're not fearless.
I love it. And it's a reminder that two or more things can be true at once. And I think sometimes, we really lean into something frightens us. So, okay, well, then let's not go there, and that's, well, yeah, we can be frightened, but we can also be excited at the same time. And we can be hugely vulnerable, but we can also have a level of inner confidence about something. So, that's something that's taken me a long time to learn. But I think just that idea that, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Like, just, multiple things can exist in conjunction with each other.
At the same time, omnidirectionally. I love this. Thank you so much, Brie. We could talk, and I appreciate
We
you.
really could. As I said to the listeners, and Nadine certainly reiterated it, the links for Nadine's work and her new excellent book will be in our show notes. So a huge thank you, Nadine Muller, for your time today and for the generous way that you've shared with our Habit Nerd audience.
Thank you so much, Brie. Thank you, like bucket loads tenfold, for allowing the space for people to share their wisdoms and their magic.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.